This and every episode of REKT Podcast is brought to you by webiste Exchange, an upcoming cryptocurrency exchange built in collaboration with One Market Data. webiste is bringing legacy finance speed, power, and sophistication to crypto for the first time. With 225,000 transactions per second per pair, comparable to NASDAQ, 15 order types on day one, with 25 order types on full rollout, and a dedicated customer support team, webiste is setting itself apart from the competition. Check out webiste today at webiste.com and pre-register today at webiste.com/registration to get your free webiste exchange tokens. That's webiste.com, BEAXY.com.
Hey, I'm Brian from Ledger Status, and this is REKT.
Hello and welcome to REKT Podcast. I am Bunchy Betts alongside my esteemed colleagues and co-hosts, Cynthia Wood. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm good. Just another day here
ready
with
to
the
rock and roll. How was your weekend?
It was good. I was drunk a lot, so I'm still recovering. But what's new?
Samesies. And Crypto Chamber, how you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, man. How you doing?
Thanks for asking. You know, I made a big deal of that one, dumbass.
You did. I made a note. I made a mental note.
Thank you. I'm good. I had a great weekend. I went and saw Dave Matthews in Boston, and that was a lot of fun.
So jelly.
That was a good time. And then we, on Saturday, my fiance decided she was going to pick up a shift at the bar she works at, and so I sat at the bar with her and kept her company and drank beers and watched sports.
So sweet.
I love when she works because I get to just sit at the bar. And we have a very special guest with us here today, Brian Krogsgard from Ledger Status. Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, we appreciate having you on. Just personally, you were one of the first people I followed when I first got on crypto Twitter. One of the first podcasts I started listening to. I really enjoy. If you haven't heard it yet, the Ledgercast. You had a couple really awesome ones in the past couple weeks that I really liked. So we appreciate you having you on. I've learned a lot of trading things from you as being somebody who was not a trader beforehand, so
well, I appreciate it. But based on the title of this podcast, it sounds like I'm going to show you the things I did that you shouldn't be doing.
Well, fit right in.
This is how we learn.
Exactly, that's how we learn. Awesome, man. So
I'm getting PTSD. I'm just looking at this chart that from my REKT story I'll tell in a bit, and I'm like, it's making my head hurt.
That's awesome. So we'll get right into it. We always like to start by, kind of giving the audience a little insight on how you got into crypto to begin with. Where did your story start to how'd you get here today?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I like a lot of people knew about Bitcoin for years and years. For me, it was mostly seeing it pop up in the tech sector. I come from the web world. I'm a web developer, so I was actually curious because I never bought anything, any cryptocurrency or crypto asset until early 2017 because I never really thought of it as an investment vehicle, despite having been in stocks in one way or the other since I was like 15 years old. Mm-hmm. But I searched my personal Twitter account for mentions of Bitcoin, and I've had that Twitter account since like 2009 or whatever. So I found a tweet about Bitcoin, just like commenting about how much it had been on Hacker News, and it was in 2012, right before a huge breakout, and it was priced at like $4.60 or something really dumb like that.
Wow.
So speaking of REKT, I did not buy Bitcoin in 2012, but I did.
Isn't $4.80 the 2018 bottom?
It was literally, if you look at the day, it was because there was it was a day on Hacker News where Justin Bieber was starting a venture capital fund. And my comment was that I thought my comment was to quote that and say, and I thought that Bitcoin on the front page of Hacker News was annoying. So at the time, awesome. I just, it was just weird technology, internet money that I thought of it as. So I knew of it, and then I remember hearing of the first, not the first, but the first majorly covered bubble pop in 2013. I remember mowing my yard and listening to NPR, and they're talking about how much it had fallen from the top, and I was like, obviously it did. It's internet money. And again,
here we are now.
Yeah, here we are. But I had not done the deep dive into really what made it what it is, and anyway, so eventually went down that path, and unfortunately, it was, late enough in the cycle to where my average price on Bitcoin is scaling in throughout that first half of 2017. So
sure. Not
bad, but not $4.60 or whatever. So
correct.
Nevertheless, I'm happy to be in this ecosystem, and it's forced me to learn a lot more trading skills, because you can learn from traditional markets, but a market cycle in a traditional market can take a decade or more, whereas in crypto, they happen so frequently. You're really throwing yourself into the fire. It's very technical. So from a technical perspective and all that with trading, I really I sharpened my skills in a big way in the crypto landscape. Though I have been trading, and I remember using Bollinger Bands as a teenager. So now when you're tweeting at John Bollinger because he's looking at Bitcoin charts, it's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Yes. So what was it about Bitcoin that kind of or crypto that took you from this is just internet money and listening to NPR about it and laughing when you were mowing your lawn to, hey, maybe this is something that's worth my time to actually look into?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was really interested when I heard that people were doing stuff that was more than trying to recreate the idea of money. So the iterations of crypto assets through things like Ethereum were really fascinating to me. So Ethereum was actually the first purchase I made, and it was I don't know which leg, but it was over $100, which rest in peace, $100 Ethereum. It was over $100, but it wasn't fully into that move up towards 400 before it consolidated for so long. So I got in, and it was right in the middle of this parabolic move, and you 2x immediately. And amazingly, with that swing, I was smart enough to realize that was ridiculous. So some of my first trades were from whatever, in the 100s, and I had sells even 380 to 400. I think it went to 420. So I got out pretty well there, but at that point you're down the freaking rabbit hole. So I was interested in it from a trading perspective because I realized how far along things had come. Back then, when I knew about it before, I knew it was hard to buy, and I just never even tried. I didn't know what Mt. Gox was necessarily or anything, but I just knew buying and selling and storing Bitcoin was a challenge, and I never looked into it beyond just hearing about it in the news. But once I heard about this idea of smart contracts and some of the things that you can do, the ideas that are available there, especially with record keeping, if you think of medical records and titles and boring things that make big differences, that stuck with me for some reason. And then now, of course, you go through that whole cycle of thinking man, so many things can be on the blockchain, and now you're maybe not that many things need to be on the blockchain. Right. And the idea of still, I believe Bitcoin is a huge experiment, but the idea of digital cash in some form as a store of value, potential, the gold replacement, and what it could do for web-based payments, micropayments with Lightning Network. I went fully down the rabbit hole. Really for whatever it's been, almost 2 years now, and it's been great. But it's mostly just learning so much. I'm learning all the time. And
sure.
Whether it's about crypto or traditional finance, you can't learn about crypto and monetary theory without digging into traditional finance too. So it's a deep rabbit hole, and I've been on it for the past 2 years, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Talk a little bit about how, you said, hey, when I first bought Ethereum and I saw it 2x or 3x right away, you had the foresight to say, this is weird, because you've been in either trading stocks for so long. Talk about how you kind of got into that aspect. You said you've been doing it since 15. I think I remember hearing a story about it on your podcast a while back. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I had a system for buying stocks back when I was a kid, and it was something that I adapted from I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Zacks.com.
Mm-hmm.
But there you can screen stocks based on different things. So I had these 4 or 5 fundamental things, like the PE ratios, the price, and a couple other things. And then I would I learned and knew what Bollinger Bands were in terms of pending volatility. Mm-hmm. So if you have a Bollinger Band squeeze and you fit some fundamental criteria, you generally like the idea of this stock, then it might make for a suitable investment. What I thought of back then, which was, it really wasn't a bad idea, even though I was certainly naive as a teenager, was you look at the price and it's man, this thing goes maybe 15, 20, 25% every few years, but stocks go 5 to 10% all the time. Mm-hmm. So I was basically figuring out this idea of swing trading, but at these 5 and 10% levels. But I knew what it meant to have a big move, right? So I remember trading Netflix when they had that Quickster debacle. I was much older then, but still things like that, and you start to identify volatility. And I couldn't have told you every indicator and all these things about it the same way then as I can now. But if you buy something and a few days later it's twice that price, this is out of hand.
Right.
And I was texting about the Ethereum move with a buddy.
That's
right,
not the
Chamber?
message.
Right, Chamber?
By the way, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to be waiting for 100 X's.
Yeah.
I didn't see any
so
of those, by the way.
I've always been in the camp that despite having a lot of examples of things going 10x or 100x, that is an unreasonable investment expectation. So I've always been a little more conservative in that regard, thinking okay, this is a little crazy or whatever, and whether that's to my benefit or my detriment depends on where we are in the market cycle. But yeah, it just gave me a little bit of insight in terms of that run up of Ethereum. Of course, I never should have gotten in Ethereum based on the same premise because it was $10, a month before
right.
that. But for me, I did see, especially it was making waves in, non-crypto technology circles, and I saw the amount of attention it was getting all of a sudden. So I did have this inherent feeling that there was more to go on the bubble, and also that this thing can pop anytime, so try to be careful. Now, once you get heavy enough in, you're not always as careful as you should be. So, I've taken my lumps just like a lot of people have, but it's part of the game. You win some, you lose some, and hopefully you net on the positive.
Sure. And so the other thing I just want to mention is, anybody who follows you on Twitter, which is very many people, you have probably one of the more I see a chart on Twitter and I immediately know it's yours without even knowing who posted it. You've got the color scheme and the Ichimoku cloud going. I know you you used to or sometimes still do the podcast with Josh Olswich. Talk about how he kind of got you into that trading style, and is that your preferred method? Things like that.
Yeah, I still like the cloud because it offers you several points on a single chart, and it has some components of it that lead the price. I also really like just simple moving averages. I think between those two things, if you're using simple moving averages and then something like a cloud-based system, they're both trend-following systems. So if you're watching Bitcoin April through October, I really wasn't posting a lot of stuff that had the cloud on it, or not a whole lot with moving averages, maybe aside from a 200-day moving average, because really there wasn't a whole lot to look at. It's just a bunch of noise if you're just consolidating and you're not trending heavily. Because we held a floor and we just condensed and condensed and condensed. It's less useful then. But when you're in a trending market, if you're going down quickly, like we have been over the past month, and if you're like 2016 and 2017, where it was just going up constantly, it gives you points of potential entry, and then it gives you opportunities to realize when you're too far extended from the mean, meaning it's due for that retrace, maybe it's time to secure some of those profits, that kind of thing. So in trending markets, the cloud and moving averages both can be really beneficial. Josh attracted me to the cloud because it's got a few elements to it that I just thought were really nice. One is that you don't have to draw it. It's just there. You don't even choose arbitrary moving averages. Like, I may like the 50-day and the 200-day moving average because a lot of people use them, but like really you can apply any moving average and it can adjust the way you have your trade strategy. Whereas the cloud, you type in your settings or you use the default ones. They're pretty close for 7-day markets versus 5-day markets. But, the Tinkin's right there. You want to see the price right in the Tinkin. The Kijun is where you buy if you're buying into a trending market, or if you short if you're selling into a trending market on the downside. And it shows you this generally positive or negative trend through the cloud being red, the cloud being green. That system just stuck with me, and it felt like a nice way to be able to look through all these different, cryptocurrencies and assets. It's like hundreds of them that you may want to glance at. So I got to see the general trend health of an asset really quickly using that system, and Josh does a great job of teaching it. So, I ran with it. I like to look at a lot of things, but I do often just slap the cloud on there for when I'm scanning to figure out, hey, this is something I'm interested in. And then I'll look for chart patterns, or I'll look for where it is relative to the moving average, or maybe I'll try to know where the Kijun is relative to where I might be interested in buying. Just keep those things in your mind while you're looking for a trade setup. But yeah, it's great.
For those of you who may not know who Josh is by his first name, that is at Carpe Noctem on Twitter. We're still waiting for that 33K though. So
yeah, I was about to say, people may not know Josh Holswich. They may not know Carpe Noctem. They might know 33K by July and be salty about it. But all he did there was he took this pitchfork that Bitcoin had traveled through for like a year and a half, and he said, if it stays in this channel, this is the anticipated target. Mm-hmm. He said exactly when it broke the channel, and he was like, this is not going to happen. But he said, then I give him a lot of credit for this. He kept it in his title of his handle until awesome. July, because
oh yeah.
And you know what? I know a lot of people that they make some projection based on TA or otherwise, and when it doesn't happen, they just slowly fade. So,
delete tweet.
I respect Josh a great deal, and he just plays things based on what he sees. But. That's right.
Wait till we actually hit 33K.
33K by July something, 2022.
Chamber, you've been taking some TA notes here because I know you've been learning. You're trying to learn your TA, and we got one of the best ones out there on this right now.
I tell you, I was listening to last week.
Crypto Cred. That was a great
last
one.
week I was listening to your show with Cred, Crypto Cred. Man, that was a great show. Those are some
awesome. I appreciate it.
I took a lot of notes listening to that one. But yeah, no, it was good to see two different perspectives. I know you were talking about the 200-day moving average as kind of like taking that back as a sign of I don't want to say reversal, but kind of positive momentum. And he was talking, I think he was talking more along the lines of taking back I want to say 58 to 6,200 or something like that. But no, it was terrific.
He trades in a very different way than I normally trade. Like, I like to keep it, especially in a market like we've got right now, where you do have historical levels, and if you can go for months in a sideways-y market, I think there's a lot of success, especially if you're scalping low and middle time frames, using that level-to-level support and resistance flip style trading that Cred has really mastered in terms of both learning, applying, and then also teaching to others.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I was a little confused.
Yeah.
Did Cred get in last year?
Think about both of them getting in last year about the same time I did, and I'm doing a damn REKT podcast.
Cred, like me, has explored a lot of different systems, and I have messages from DMs from him where he was trying to nail down a couple things about the Ichimoku cloud from last fall. And I don't care when someone started. If you put in the work, and if you adopt a system and you figure it out, and then better yet, you put your calls out there and let them live or die, and then you learn from those things. then you'll get my respect. And Cred has done a fantastic job, and the amount of work and energy that he's put into figuring out the way price action works and all that stuff speaks for itself.
And also, Cred, I've followed him for a long time, and when I was, actively trading and still learning, he puts out a lot of great educational stuff and spends a lot of time trying to teach other people. So he's a cool guy, and he's a really great trader.
Do you, Brian, do you still use Bollinger Bands? And if not, we won't tell John.
No, I find Bollinger Bands to be enormously beneficial. Now, there are tricks to try to say, like, I think this has a bias towards breaking up or a bias towards breaking down. But if the easiest way to use Bollinger Bands is just to say, how tight are these things, or how wide are they? Because that's really just giving you like these standard deviation style moves, and that was useful forever ago, and it's useful today. I mean, before we broke down from 6,400, I was telling folks near me in this class that I've been doing, like, I'm expecting an imminent move, and it's going to be extremely violent. And then I was very helpful in saying, I'm not going to be bold enough to tell you which direction this is going. But once we break, strap in, because we're gonna go off in that direction. Yeah, it was record low volatility. Tight. The Bollinger Bands were the tightest they'd ever been. And you can use the BLX ticker. That's the Brave New Coin Liquid Index, and that gives you price history back to whatever 2010 maybe. Basically, as long as that history exists. And I think it was the daily and the 3-day that hit a record, or maybe it was the daily and the weekly. The daily, 3-day, and weekly Bollinger Bands. And Bollinger Band width is another indicator that's just a line that shows what the width is, and then you can actually see how wide it was. And it was record low volatility indicated by narrow Bollinger Bands on basically all three of those time frames. So we were like due for an explosion, and we got it. Yes, we did. Bitcoin cut in half, and Bollinger Bands told you that you should expect a high velocity move. So even though you don't necessarily catch it on day one, if you look for a retest or whatever you look for, or you just hit it with the momentum, then you can either protect yourself and get out, or even actively trade with that swing and see how far it can take you. But Bollinger Bands are an enormously beneficial and useful tool.
That's awesome. Before we get into your REKT story, what advice would you give to anybody out there that's either starting to learn how to trade or starting to look into TA for the first time, or maybe they've been in this space and kind of had no interest in TA? What kind of advice would you give somebody?
Sure. My advice is going to be dependent on the fact that the market has been trending downward. So my advice would be, one, congratulations, you've already accomplished the feat that most don't, which is to be a contrarian trader. So you're getting interested in an ecosystem when the ecosystem is not the hot topic. Typically, if something's like all over CNBC, that's not when you want to be touching it. You want to be getting interested when no one's talking about it. So getting interested in crypto now when it's whatever percent, 80% plus off highs on Bitcoin, and some of these altcoins, some for good reason, but some just because, are down 95 to 99% off their USD values, and who knows, 80 to 90% off their Bitcoin relative values. So getting interested in this ecosystem, learning about this ecosystem is a very contrarian move. So kudos to those of you doing that. And then in addition to that, take it slow. My best guess is that 2019 is not going to have like a 4x type of move. I think we may double the price of Bitcoin, or lose another 50%, or both. There'll be some swings, there'll be some volatility that's worth trading, but I don't think people should be afraid that they're going to miss like a rapid move to all-time highs. So it's going to be a good opportunity for people to get some skin in the game, try to average down or average in, dollar cost average in, and take it slow with how you learn to trade. And then additionally, the one thing I would say is try to stick to assets that you have a fundamental, some fundamental viewpoint in. So screen based on fundamentals, and then look for trade setups that meet your criteria. But you don't want to be left holding a bag that you hate because you don't believe in it at all fundamentally. So
right.
I personally try to steer away from those, and I haven't always. This will lead into my story. But I would personally rather bag hold. If I'm going to bag hold, and you don't have to be a bag holder. You can always dump, even if you're down. Even if you're down a lot. If the forecast is this is going to go down a lot more, then you can dump it. Like, you're allowed. And it may hurt, and if it goes up against you when you dumped it, it may hurt. But sometimes your whole brain just needs a reset. So take it slow. Don't be afraid to take a loss. And then there's this quote. I think it was Jesse Livermore, a famous trader, that said something like, "Be hopeful that you can make money, and be very fearful of losing money." If you're fearful of losing money, you're going to be way more likely to just cut that bag, take the loss, and carry on. But if your fear is not of losing money, but if your fear is of missing out, then you're probably just going to lose money. Whereas if you're hopeful for making money, then you look for those moves up, you ride those winners up, but then you cut that sucker once you have that fear of losing.
That's pretty awesome advice, I think.
Yeah.
Chamber, you taking notes?
Getting all that tattooed on me.
Yeah, especially that quote.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right, Ledger, we wouldn't be REKT Podcast if we didn't ask you some of your best crypto REKT stories, best/worst. What do you got for us?
Sure. So there was one, and this was at a time, it was a great fake out period, which is what I was looking for. This is in 2018. It was in kind of that April-May zone where alts went on a run. Bitcoin was doing some stuff. I was seeking, so Bitcoin had this double top up around 11.8. And I was looking at some point after a move back down, I was looking to go back up and what you would call like tap the liquidity up there just above 11.8 to make people think, all right, we're going to 20K
right,
and then we die. So actually I was looking for 11.8 plus again and then we die. What tricked me was that we really didn't get past 9.8, and I swore 10K as resistance was a meme. But the only meme was really me. And then that was a big mistake. I lost more money not cutting losses through the various trades that I had put on for that move, where I timed the beginning of the move fine, but my fear of missing out, like I didn't want to miss that move above 11.8, caused me to not cut the bags quick enough once it failed, and I was just certain that the above 10K thing would just not work out for people. But it turned out that there were so many sellers ready to get rid of Bitcoin close to 10K. It pulled the whole market down. So one of the trades that I was in at the time was a position where I knew the fundamentals were trash. I hated it. But it gave me a setup, and this was a cloud-based setup. This was Salt. Salt. Salt.
I actually bought Salt in around this time.
Yeah, so it's the Salt Bitcoin chart, and it fulfilled what I would call kind of like reversal indicators using a cloud system. So the Tinkin went over the Kijun, so this is basically
there's like
kind
four things that you tend to look for this, right?
That's right, and we don't have to get into every element, but if you're looking for a reversal, one of the things that tells you you're partway through the reversal is the Tinkin, which is the leading version of these two lines, crosses the Kijun, and then another is that price breaks into the cloud, and you might look for either an edge to edge or a move through the cloud. But really, it's not bullish yet because it's not meeting all the criteria, but it's meeting enough criteria to enter the trade. Now, in a bull market, this probably would have been fine. I probably would have gotten the move, which would have ended up being, probably a 75% move, maybe a little more if it had done what I was looking for. Now the moron in me didn't cut it because again I was believing 9.8 is trash as a top, so we are going beyond that, and therefore I will be rewarded in this trade and a couple others as well. So when it lost the technical reasons for being in the trade, that's when you want to be out of the trade. And being selfish and greedy in this position and too certain of my macro thesis, which is a potentially devastating position to be in, is too certain of your thesis.
Right.
I let it fail that. And then it gave me an escape route. It went down like over the course of 3 days below. So I bought originally, it was around 40K sats, which if you look at salt now, spoiler alert, terrible. Now I did get rid of this position. It's an example of what I did before. I slowly capitulated this position. So I probably gave up 25% of it when it failed the play. And I was pissed because like there were other alts running or whatever still. And I was mad because like this setup was all right and yada, yada, yada. And then it went and spiked back up above my entry. And I was like, oh, all right, look, looks like it was a fake down or a fake out because it was now re-meeting my criteria. Now the next move down is when I deserved to lose because I didn't get rid of, after it failed it again. So now you got another day or two where it just got waxed. I should have cut every bit of it, taken the L, and moved on with life. But what I did is I just slowly let myself get pissed off, waiting for a stronger retest or move up or something like that until it finally gave the last support that I could possibly let it go. And by the time I let go of whatever it was, the last 25% or 30%, relative to Bitcoin, that sucker had lost half its value.
Oh, man.
And Bitcoin, because altcoins can move really quickly.
Yeah.
You lose 3-4% a day, and all of a sudden that stacks up. And then what hurts the most is Bitcoin can go down 3 or 4% a day too, which is forcing this. So you're in a leveraged position by being in an altcoin trading against BTC. So if you're trading against BTC, you really want your stops to be tight, because if Bitcoin's on the downside, your alt's on the downside, the amount that you can lose escalates really quickly. And it's a hard lesson to learn when you really take a big hit like that. And that's why we see a lot of people that got really upset and depressed. And I did eventually cut this, and you know what? It dropped another 50%, and then another 50%, and another 50%. This
Shaver,
thing went
from... I see your face over there, man. What? Go ahead. What do you?
So
you're like
funny.
dying over there.
So this is the tale of two traders right here.
You held on that whole time?
Oh yeah. I'm just looking at it right now. Ooh. So April 30th. Okay, so we're right in the same time zone. I've been in crypto for maybe half a year at this point. Made some awful mistakes. I'm thinking to myself, we had April, we had a little bit of a run up. Alts were starting to pop. I didn't do TA on this one. This one specifically, and the reason I kept it, normally I would cut it loose, but this was a lesson I had to teach myself with this one in particular, because I was on Twitter and I saw
first mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. First mistake. I saw some positive, kind of what you're talking about. You kind of saw. I was listening to people that were seeing the same thing, and I'm like, well, these guys are smart. I'm just gonna buy a bag. And sure enough, like you said, yes, that started to drop. My bag is, and you're right. I bought mine at 45,000 satoshis. My bag is now down 86%.
Oh, you still have it, huh?
Yeah, I have to.
Oh my God.
Because this reminds me never, ever to make a trade based off Twitter. This reminds me. I just look at it, guys, don't be an idiot. Salt. Remember salt. Salt.
That's one reason. And I know sometimes people will look at a setup that I put on Twitter and say, like, whatever, it was a recommendation. I'm not making recommendations when I put stuff on there, but I try really hard not to say, like, how could you not possibly be in Decred
right.
without
I'm
even
pretty sure that's what the tweet I read was. I'm like, how could you not be in Salt? I'm like, well, that's
yeah,
a
it's
question.
like, how could you not be in it? And then you don't even provide your basis for that. So if I'm putting, like, if I say, here's my positioning in something, which is usually what I would say if I'm doing something like that, I'm going to have a chart that gives the thesis for that position. Like, I think just like trying to instill FOMO in others, and you're not even giving your why, whether it's a fundamental or technical argument, then that's really lame. Heading into that buy, I just did some measurements. Salt was down about 78% from its like December, January high, and then it had recovered some. So it wasn't like it was buying the top or anything. It had recovered another. Right. It was another 40% off the lows.
This was the end of April when I bought mine.
Yeah, and then it was a good trade for about a week. Anyway, but yeah, this is a good example of why you just got to be careful, because I capitulated. The last of my position might have been down like around 50% BTC, because I'm looking at this trend line that I still have on my chart, where it failed this final like historical trend line on the bottom side. It failed that, and I was like, screw this. With the last part, it more than failed my trade already. But then if you just keep going, it didn't even have any recovery until it had like an 88% drawdown, and the low is close to a 90% drawdown from my purchase.
Wow.
And that's like I said, from the top, God, I mean, I have no idea.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so top to bottom, from what I can measure, salt would have gone like 96%. Wow. Relative to Bitcoin.
Sure, right.
And Bitcoin was like
that's not
$15,000 in January. So
I remember salt being one of those ones that when it was going fast upwards, and it was insanity.
It basically got a listing
that.
pump and then nothing else.
Right.
But yeah, the reason for saying that is, number one, we shouldn't really be holding anything that far down that badly. That's really poor risk management. But we've all done it, even when we know better. I've done it in traditional markets too. I do not want to get into. I've had some huge wins in equities recently, but I've had a couple of calls that I made, and then I just like totally bit the bullet on them. But anyway, so not only did you hold something technically for way too long, like way beyond any risk management type of strategy would allow, and in addition to that, it was something that I literally hated salt as an idea, and I hated the way they had structured everything about it. Like, I knew what their ICO structure was. I knew that the cheapest coins that were sold during that were like 25 cents, and it was a huge percentage of supply. I knew like all these downsides of what their model was, and that's why eventually, and it's probably a good thing, I guess, I was like, okay, this has reached my maximum point of
of
REKT. Of REKT. I'm out of here, because it was one, and a lot of coins can go to zero. People should really not think they can't. This is experimental technology. If you look at CoinMarketCap, the historical homepages tool, the top 100 coins tend to be very different year in, year out, because a lot of these are transitional. They move over time, they change. So I just had no fundamental belief in this. And yeah. Now, if you're holding Bitcoin 90% down, I think Bitcoin is really one of very few that has long-term fundamentals that, until it's made illegal, which is possible, until it's made illegal, as long as it's a legitimized, system, I think, Bitcoin was and is king. So there are some where if I took that 90% drawdown, maybe I'll wait on it. But for the other ones, like if you can find a exit pump, basically, then it might be worth collecting your pennies, even though that's all you have left. Unless you're treating it as this self-immolation style reminder.
Like chamber.
Like you're doing.
That's right.
But yeah, funny. it's not fun holding those bags. So the way to not hold those bags is to just get rid of that stuff, man. Take your hit, determine what your maximum drawdown can be. Maybe even outside of the technical setup. Maybe you just tell yourself, you know what, I've held too many bags. Like, I will never hold a position that's down more than 20% again. And set yourself a hard and fast rule and say, if this sucker is down after a daily close of more than 20%, I'm out, because I know emotionally I will hold on to this until it dies. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, because for me, when I first started, I think one of the hardest lessons I learned was very similar to that, because, and it was because of position sizing, right? So I would take a position, and then if it was down 20% and that was my max threshold, it seemed like, oh man, I'm down too much money to not have this to just cut this as a loss. And So, when I started making smaller positions for trades like that, I felt, okay, my 20% is only X amount of dollars and I can deal with that. You know what I mean? So it seems counterintuitive that way, but that helped me was lowering my position sizes on some of those because I would feel like I was married to it more and I didn't want to cut it when it was down 20 or whatever, even though it was a more exorbitant amount of money.
And there's some good quotes out there about that. I think Peter Brandt maybe has one about how you'll be most wrong on your largest position sizes because your psychology changes if you've got too much on the line.
That's exactly what happened to me. Yeah, it's totally what happened to me. Anyway, all right, so let's get to a couple of stories in the news. Chamber, you want to start us out?
Yes, sir. Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada is right.
Canadian city. I don't know why they have to call it Canadian city. Calgary, we all know is a Canadian city, launches a digital currency to boost local economic activity. So I did a little research into this. Apparently, the city of Calgary, in the great province of Alberta, since 1996, has had a what they call a Calgary dollar. And the Calgary dollar was an initiative by the city for small businesses to kind of keep money within the community. So in 1996, and so this has been going on for, over 20 years. Over 20 years now. And they finally, so as of yesterday, converted. You can now have the Calgary dollar, but you can now have the Calgary digital dollar.
Interesting.
Very cool. There's a mandate, though. You have to accept. Every business has to accept a minimum of 10% to a maximum of 100%. But yeah, it's to help promote local business, local small businesses, and to help keep some of that money within the community.
So what is a Calgary? You may not know this, but like my question would be,
Calgary's very far.
My question would be, what is a Calgary dollar difference versus a Canadian dollar, and then how does that differ from the digital?
So again, based on very, very limited research, the Calgary dollar is not an official dollar. It's like a Patty's bucks,
like a Stanley wooden nickel from The Office. Shroot.
Exactly. It's a Shroot buck. It's exactly what it is. So that was kind of, I don't know if it was footed by the municipal government of Calgary, but that's essentially what that was there for back in '96. And they basically made a digital version of that.
I'm amazed that the national government allows them to have a Calgary dollar.
I think that's crazy too. It's interesting
cool.
that you can.
It's really cool.
For what it's worth, this is the same argument that people that are critics of Bitcoin say about Bitcoin. Bitcoin and the Calgary dollar would be synonymous to them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
This reminds me of banknotes. You guys remember the idea of banknotes prior to the U.S. dollar, the government-backed one? It was banks that just backed a note to say this is worth something. So it's like Calgary doing the same.
I have an uncle that collects those.
It's like this, just a group of businesses, I guess, within Calgary that say, "Yeah, we'll take this." Like it's the same old thing. So, and it's
interesting.
Interesting. That's cool. You got to get yourself some Calgary dollars.
Yeah, that's way too far, man. That's it's like 8 time zones away, I feel.
Well, look, that doesn't stop you from buying altcoins.
That is very accurate. Very
anyway, Cynthia, you got a story for us?
I do. CCN, as usual, put out a story today about MasterCard applying for yet another patent. This one is for anonymous blockchain transactions. Do you guys know about tumbling or coin mixing? Basically for anonymous transactions. Basically, there's sites that you can go to, or companies that you can use where you use their website, and it's called coin mixing or tumbling, and they take basically you send it, you put in your inputs, like I want to send this much Bitcoin to somebody else. They take that input and they kind of, I guess, quote unquote, tumble them together on their servers. I think this is how it works.
I believe it's pronounced laundering. No?
it's like a centralized version of the same idea of what ring signatures and Monero.
I was just going to say, it sounds like Monero a little bit. Yeah.
Well, they are wanting to patent this method, their own method of doing this. And basically, they're using their own servers. You send your money that goes to their servers. They, quote unquote, tumble it around between different, other people that are sending money and do whatever they do. And then they transfer it to where it's going. So basically, you're sending it to the server, and then the server sends it to the recipient. Which to me just sounds kind of like a freaking centralized bank. I mean, if you're sending your money to a MasterCard server,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound very anonymous to me because this data is being saved somewhere on this central server that MasterCard has. It sounds bogus, and a lot of people are wondering, MasterCard is a regulated company, a regulated financial institution, so they're not going to be launching any products or businesses based on this without regulatory approval, which includes KYC and AML and all of those other things. So did they get the patent just so they can enforce it against other companies that are already using a similar service? It's just really shady, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Any thoughts on that, Brian?
Well, I know a horror story of someone that used one of these less than reputable coin mixing services, and they lost many a Bitcoin.
Really?
Because, I guess they mixed the magic number of Bitcoin that caught the site operator's attention, and the Bitcoin never came back. But
oh my God.
when you're relying on a tool like this, you're sending them off somewhere and hoping it comes back.
Yeah.
Now with MasterCard,
there's no tracking.
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand what they're going after in terms of, trying to patent it. But a lot of these big companies are doing patent races on blockchain because they know what happened after with the patent wars of the web and past technological revolutions, and they just want to gobble them up. So it's not that relevant in terms of how they may actually use it to me.
Right. But the fact that they have
be careful if you're using those mixers. Just use a privacy coin. That way it's built into the protocol, not someone's website.
Right. All right, and my story. Our so favorite person, Jack Dorsey, the owner of Twitter and CEO of Square. So the story here is also from CCN that Square has overtaken Coinbase as the number one Bitcoin buying app, which I think is pretty interesting. So the Square payment platform, operated by Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, has surpassed Coinbase to become the most widely used iOS app to buy Bitcoin. So this is obviously through Cash App, and it also overtook YouTube to become the number one top free mobile app on the iOS store.
Awesome.
So Cash App is doing some things, and they're trying to make it so it's all about accessibility and that you can get it anywhere easily, fast. I think some of the limitations with Coinbase or Gemini is some of those KYC things. If you've used Cash App to buy Bitcoin, you don't necessarily have that. I mean, you have your bank account linked to Cash App, potentially, as I personally do. But that, you deposit cash to the Cash App, and then you buy Bitcoin with that. It's as easy as that. I think some of the fees are probably a little better on Cash App too. It's
slightly,
in my opinion, not the easiest to send. Not the easiest to send back and forth. But and then there's a quote here that says that they're not focusing too much on profits for the Bitcoin portion here. They don't consider its Bitcoin trading service as a major monetization engine, and they don't intend to generate large profits out of it, but it's all about making it accessible. So Jack says, Bitcoin for us is not stopping at buying and selling. We do believe that it is a transformational technology for the industry, and we want to learn as quickly as possible. So they're going to be, sounds like, doing a lot more things with Bitcoin, in the Cash App. I know personally, I think my last, at least 5 or 6 buys on Bitcoin especially if I'm doing smaller amounts, have been with Cash App. So I've personally used it more than Coinbase in the last, few months there. Chamber, you use Cash App? Is it available for you?
You know what? As you're saying it, I'm not 100% sure it is.
I want to say it is, but I'm not sure either.
Yeah,
report back to us.
I've never seen it come across. Like, I'm usually on, the iTunes store pretty often. I don't think I've come across it.
Interesting. Ledger, you used Cash App for Bitcoin yet?
I've not purchased Bitcoin with it, but I've used Cash App several times. But in my locality, people are using Venmo more than the Cash App, but it's a similar idea to Venmo. But I was excited to see them initially say that they were going to support Bitcoin, and it'll be interesting if people start making it more of a first-hand experience within those apps and not just a some other thing you can do or buy with them. But
I use
hope
Bitcoin. I use Venmo probably more than I use Cash App also, but for buying Bitcoin recently, I've used Cash App more than Coinbase, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. Can you send Bitcoin somewhere else from Cash App?
I can. I actually sent Chamber some Bitcoin. You can't receive it.
You can't receive it.
Okay.
Unless somebody in Cash App sends it to you. Like somebody holds Bitcoin in their Cash App wallet, you can send it to each other there. Because I actually paid a friend back recently in Bitcoin. Cool. But I use Cash App all the time. And I have a Cash App debit card, and I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, Square makes good stuff, and Twitter, the product is good. Or usually.
Just the people on it are terrible.
Just awful human beings.
That's cool. So we are going to get into something fun here. We're going into the draft. So we are going to, tis the season, so we are here recording this, I think, on the 10th of December, so we're going to have a little holiday/Christmas fun. We are going to be drafting the top Christmas movies of all time. So, Ledger, the way this works is we're going to go in a snake draft style, just like fantasy football. You actually have the first pick. We're going to go. We're going to go with you. That's a good enviable position to have. So it's going to go you, myself, Cynthia, Chamber, and then it's going to go snake draft. So Chamber's going to go again and come back around. So you have last. So
good.
You picked twice in the first round, which is pretty good. And then
I like that.
We're going to pick 3 each. And then what we do with these is we get them out on Twitter, and we put them in a poll, and the people vote on who's got the best portfolio of Christmas movies. So, Brian of Ledger Status, the floor is yours with the first overall pick.
Home Alone.
God damn it.
That was one of mine.
Very solid.
Cross it off my list. Dang it.
Woo.
That was a solid pick.
Solid pick. Great movie. I was going to pick it if it fell to me. So here's what I'm going to do. Because I've heard a lot of debate on which is the better movie. I'm going to go Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Bogus!
I thought that was going to be a third round. Steal.
I wanted a part of the Home Alone franchise very badly.
Way to step out on a ledge.
The sequel is never as good as the original. Come on.
Well, okay. I could throw out a couple reasons why. Do you like the old man or do you like the bird lady? It really comes down to that.
Bird Lady's great.
Bird Lady, I forgot about her.
Scene when he's throwing the bricks from the top of that building, and he's smoking them in the face. I remember going to the theater. That was one of the first movies I saw at the theater. I remember in the aisles crying laughing. That was a hard, 8-year-old laugh.
Home Alone 2 features a cameo from our current president.
The Don.
Yes. Unfortunately does.
The Don. I forgot about that.
That's
fun fact, too. My 5-year-old daughter, anytime she sees anybody over 50 in a suit on television, she thinks it's funny.
You watch too much political coverage.
That's awesome.
She's like, is that Trump? I'm like, no, it's just some dude in a suit. It's Alec Baldwin.
This is Kevin McAllister, the father. All right, Cynthia, you're up.
Oh, man, this is so hard. Okay. I'm going to have to go with The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Wow. Interesting.
Wow, so many mistakes made in the first round, Brian. You're the only one that made a good decision.
No, I made an okay decision.
This is where I take over.
Hey, they're just giving you easy picks
Plus,
is all.
I'm a mom,
Chamber,
guys.
you get 2. You get 2 here.
I get 2 amazing
Yeah, you do.
picks. Okay. All right, I'm going A Christmas Story
Good one.
Damn it. It's a good one.
and Christmas
I knew you were
Vacation.
going to say that.
Are
It
you
was at the
kidding
top
me,
of my
people?
list,
You're just
too,
giving it to me
but
at this
come on.
point.
Okay,
It seems
so
like the obvious
here's the thing with
choice.
Christmas Story. I love A Christmas Story. I think it's a top movie.
That's my favorite.
But I think there's Christmas Story fatigue out there, and I think you might. I think you might get a little
see.
pushback.
Hopefully, I get it back with the
Yeah, you
Christmas
may.
Vacation.
But I,
Christmas
you know,
Vacation,
since
yeah.
they run A Christmas Story 24 hours on TBS
So
every year.
good.
I think there might be some Christmas Story fatigue out there. Cynthia, you're up.
I hope not.
Fragile.
I'm praying.
Must be Italian.
I'm praying. I'm praying one drops back to me.
Okay. Oh God, this is hard. Okay, I'm going with. Oh shit. So much pressure. This is another almost kiddie movie, but I'm gonna go with Gremlins.
Gremlins. Wow, you're going off the board.
Solid pick with Gremlins.
Yeah.
Might not be a fan
You've
favorite,
gotta-
though. One of my faves.
I love Gremlins, but I don't know.
love
I
Gremlins.
probably wouldn't have considered
There's some
that
stuff
a
on the
Christmas
table
movie
that's
if I'm
just-
thinking of.
Oh, it for sure is. Yeah.
So this one got back to me. I didn't think it was. I'm going. It's an easy pick for me. Elf.
That's an easy
Damn, that was my next choice.
I'm going with Elf. Will Ferrell.
That's a first round steal.
Buddy the
That's
Elf.
a first round steal.
Buddy the Elf. What's your favorite color? Yeah, I could have gone. I probably could have gone Elf and Home Alone 2 coming back.
Oh, you could have got
but
Home Alone 2 in the third round, I'm telling you.
My husband and I quote Elf
It's
all
like
year
drafting
long.
a tight end in the
Yeah.
third round of a fantasy draft.
Hey, Ledger scared me with the Home Alone as the first pick.
Ooh,
I
imagine
knew
you
I
would have went
wanted
back to back and took both of them.
that would have been good. All right, so now Ledger, you've got 2 picks, and you're closing out your draft here because we're drafting 3 each. So you've got your second and third picks.
All right, I'm going one sappy, one awesome. If you don't think this is a Christmas movie, then I don't want to spend Christmas with you. I'm going Die Hard.
I knew it was coming.
I knew one of y'all was going to say Die Hard, and
I
it
was
is
definitely
not
knew
a
it was
Christmas
gonna come.
movie.
I didn't know who would. I didn't know who would do it because I probably wouldn't have. I'm glad somebody did though, and we'll see what the polls say.
And
you know what?
this
Rotten
one-
Tomatoes. Sorry, go ahead.
Everybody calls it a Christmas movie because it is.
No, I was
gonna
going to
say
say
Rotten
Rotten
Time of year to
Tomatoes.
watch Die Hard.
Rotten Tomatoes has Die Hard on their Christmas list, and I was like,
Yeah, so this
no
is.
way.
I mean, I just googled best Christmas movies of all time, and it's on this list also.
yeah,
There's no
yeah.
argument. There's no
Yeah.
argument.
All right.
Whatever.
In your last
And
one.
then my sappier choice is one that I would like to say that I don't like it, but my wife loves to watch it pretty much every Christmas season, and there's only one part about it I don't like, which is Jack Black, and I'm gonna go with The Holiday.
Wow,
I don't know why
that's
I think it's
off
so good.
The board.
I like The Holiday.
I didn't know
I think
where
I
it was
made fun
going.
of The Holiday the other day on the
It is.
show. I'm sorry.
It is well worth making fun of,
It
and
is,
I'm
but
hoping
I like it
that
too.
I'm hoping that Die Hard will keep me some degree of masculinity points on this.
I think you're gonna get big points with Home Alone and Die Hard. I don't know. I feel like The Holiday is one that many people may even not have ever
I don't
seen.
think
I
I
don't know.
have seen it.
It's
Well, then I'm giving people a recommended.
I'm watching
There
watch.
you
it.
go,
I'm watching it.
exactly.
I'm watching it tonight.
so I'm torn here. What I should do for my
Ooh,
last pick.
There's some good stuff on the board still.
I know, and I want to go. I want to go with. Forget it. All right,
Talk it up,
I'm going
talk it
with. I just don't want to give somebody the. I just don't want to
That's
give one
fair.
of you
No, that's
guys
a good
the
point. That's a good
recommendation if I choose not to go here. I'm gonna go with Tim Allen, Santa Claus.
Son of a bitch.
It's a great movie.
Yeah,
definitely
I
going
mean,
with
the
the Santa
weenie
Claus.
whistle. You know, it's what's it?
I love
Mystery
how
Date?
much he just makes fun of the guys about the sweater.
What's the name of the elf? The older elf that is in
Yeah.
charge.
Sam?
Forget. I don't know if that's
Is it
his name.
Sam? I don't know.
All right, so that's mine. Cynthia, your last pick is.
I think we lost Cynthia. I think we
On
did.
her last pick? Oh, how terrible.
Bernard.
Bernard, by the way.
It's Bernard. Yes. Good. Thank you. Good save.
I used to watch that movie like in the summer as a kid. It was. I mean, I thought it was a great movie.
It's a great movie. All right, so we lost Cynthia right in time for her last pick. We will let her pick after yours. We'll get it off air. So Chamber, you're going to close out your draft here, and you get a freebie now because you have no chance for Cynthia to get you.
Jeepers. Okay, so with my last pick, I'm going to go with Bad Santa.
Oh, good one. I thought about it. That's a good one. A little irreverent. That fits your style. I think that's a solid pick for you, personally. So, all right, here's what we got. So, Brian comes in with Home Alone, Die Hard, The Holiday. I have Home Alone 2, Elf, and the Santa Claus. I think that's pretty strong. Cynthia is going off the board here. She's definitely gonna get the alternative vote. The Nightmare Before Christmas and Gremlins, and then she'll pick her third off air, and then Chamber with A Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation, and Bad.
I'm watching all three of those movies tonight.
Team as well. So just some here that we definitely missed. So the other one I was thinking of, I didn't think this would be as good of a fan favorite. Jingle All the Way. I thought you might pick it. The one with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So
and
I had
Sinbad.
never seen the movie until this year, and I watched it twice this year. It's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid movie.
Yeah, I thought you might pick it because of your Sinbad.
It is. I've been watching it because of
affliction.
Sinbad, but I do have a Sinbad affliction.
We missed The Muppets Christmas Carol, A Charlie Brown Christmas, The Grinch, Polar Express.
One of my favorites, which I
you could go back
pick, which was Mickey's Christmas Carol, is one of my faves. I love that one. I can watch that anytime.
Some classic ones like Miracle on 34th Street.
Overrated.
We didn't get Love
almost picked that
Actually.
one.
I thought you were going Love Actually when you were talking about the sappy
I thought that
one.
as well.
Yeah.
And here's the other one that we definitely missed. I actually thought you were going this one with Sappy too. Was It's a Wonderful Life? Nobody picked that.
It's not a wonderful movie.
It's old school.
Oh wow, okay.
Batman
all right, let's see. Any other ones
Returns
here?
shows up as a Christmas movie on my list here.
Yeah, same here. I thought that was.
You could also say, and I think it would be more of a series, but like the James Bond series comes on every holiday season.
Point.
Is that allowed?
Yeah, I would have. We would have. If you made it, if you wanted to put it out there for the vote, you could have picked it. I think. Yeah. Edward Scissorhands shows up on my list. I don't remember that being much of a Christmas movie, but I haven't seen that in a very long time. But yeah, and then there's the Santa Claus 2, which is not as good as
Home Alone
but
2.
I think we got solid squads
I
here,
agree.
so we're going to put that out on the vote, and we will get that out there tomorrow as well. So let us know who wins the Christmas battle of Christmas movies. I think we're going to probably do Christmas songs next time, which will be another fun one.
Was the Grand Budapest Hotel a Christmas movie?
It could
Yeah.
be. I think it takes place
It does
at
take
Christmas.
place at Christmas.
Yep.
That would have been a good
That's
pick.
a good movie.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
That's an off-the-wall one. Yeah, that's a good one. Is that that's Bill Murray and
Oh
Wes
yeah,
Anderson,
it's Wes
right?
Anderson.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a solid movie.
Cool. So last but not least, we are going to get into the REKT Index.
Brutal, savage, wrecked.
Chamber, how wrecked are we?
Newsflash, it's wrecked. Actually, we're not doing awful. We picked up a little bit of steam versus BTC, obviously. Just opening up here. I mean, it's not the worst it's been, but it's not the best it's been. We're up versus BTC. And just, Brian, a little bit of backstory here. We started this up. What did we start? End of July?
Mid-July. Yeah.
Mid-July. So we get people on the show. We pulled some money together, and from there, we would ask for what they thought some projects that would kind of pan out well over the next 3 to 6 months kind of thing. So since then, we are up in BTC just under 22%. But down in USD, just under 34%. So not great, but doing all right. I gave a lot of shade to the Blockfolio app last time, so I made a point to spend a little bit more time with it. And yeah, it is actually pretty good. But no, it's looking all right. But yeah, USD's got to go up. But BTC, we're holding our own.
Do we have any update on what's leading the way and what's not?
The big leaders are obviously Quant, QNT, BAT, Wax, Tomo, BNB. Down at the bottom of that list, you got XDNA, Z Classic, Nebulous. Those are kind of the bottom of the barrel. I see.
How many coins are in this index?
Well, we've had about 30 guests, so
Yeah.
we give them each. They can pick up to 3,
And it's all timing, really. It's all based on timing. Whenever you make the recommendation, really has a big effect on it.
Ledger, you got any for us to add to the bags?
Yeah, I'll give you one.
All right.
I'm not saying it doesn't have room to go down further, but
Sure.
Well, we all know there's room to go down further.
we
Right.
will experience a pump, and I'm not against the current timing on Tezos. Has anyone added?
Oh, interesting.
I like
no,
that.
has
Interesting.
not been added, and I'm into that one for
My
sure.
lowest
I like
my lowest
that
fill
call.
over the past few days was 32 cents against the dollar, which is sad when you compare it to
What was the
it was not
ICO?
too long ago. I don't know the USD value of the ICO, but it's under the ICO price against Bitcoin.
That's hot.
Yeah, it's down there. It's down there on the USD value.
All right, let's get us some Tezzies, Chamber.
I
Yeah.
love it. That's my favorite pick so
That's
far.
awesome. So, cool. So that's going to do it for our segments. Brian, we appreciate having you on and taking the time. That was a lot of fun. We want to give you kind of the floor to, tell anybody about any projects you're working on, where people can find you, anything like that. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. So return since ICO on Tezos. Just as a follow-up, it's at 0.52x BTC, it's at 0.77x USD, and 1.72x Ethereum, but that's Ethereum's fault. So that's just
So
a
the
follow-up
time
on
is
the
now, yes.
Tezos.
Nice. I
We're in a
like
good
it.
spot for that one.
ledgerstatus.com/learn. If you liked what I said about TA here, if you're interested in digging into more TA stuff, it's built for people that are not trading full time. It's built for somebody that wants stuff kind of once a week. There's market analysis. There's videos that are evergreen that are sent to you over time about trading with these different strategies and approaching the market in a holistic way. I think it's a good program and that it's affordable for someone that's looking to take trading seriously. I have a podcast and all that crap. Just follow me on Ledger Status or at Ledger Status on Twitter, and I appreciate y'all having me.
And all that crap.
Yeah.
It's a very
It's a great
great
podcast.
It's very good. It's one of my favorites. One of the ones that I download and listen to whenever they come out. And I did want to mention before what I was thinking when we were doing this, the REKT Index update. You have like a trading account for your kids, right?
Yeah, my kids are better traders than I am.
And I'm sure they are better traders than us,
Guaranteed.
because I was thinking, I'm like, our REKT Index is probably 10 times more REKT than Ledger's kids.
Yeah, my kids they got in at a tough time for the market, but it was an appropriate time for as their savings were
How
being
old are
built
your
up.
kids?
But I try to play it.
Ballpark.
They're very young. They're not average.
You
They're-
look like you're 20 years old.
I'm an old man.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
an old
see, I
man.
look
I'm
my
in
age.
my 30s.
I look like
I'm
an
in my
old
early
man.
30s. But yeah, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old,
great.
and their savings are being put to work by trading cryptocurrencies. And yeah, their dad has made some mistakes on their behalf, but all their trades are great.
That's good.
That's awesome.
But I try to keep it pretty conservative with them. So all those risk management things that I was talking about, I'm much better at observing for them than I am sometimes with myself, because I'm not allowed to tell mama their portfolios up in BTC terms, but not USD,
That's awesome. Cool.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. This was a super educational episode, and I think people are going to take a lot away from it. So, again, thank you for your time. Like us and subscribe, rate us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. It goes a long way. We would appreciate it. Tell us your favorite Christmas movies and yell at us about our polls and what we missed. Chamber, we need a hashtag for the episode. We didn't get one. Got it written down?
Hashtag Tale of Two Traders.
Okay, I like that because, there's Ledger and then there's you.
Yeah.
It's really accurate.
Very good.
All right. Again, thank you, everyone, for listening. And until next time, don't get wrecked, and that is financial advice.